You know that feeling? When you're sort of wrestling with something tough? Could be a challenge, a tricky emotion, maybe just a big life question.
Mhm.
And you're looking for, I don't know, a new angle, some understanding, maybe even just relief.
Yeah, absolutely. Whether it's a specific hurdle or just wanting to understand yourself a bit better.
Exactly. Well, today we're going to dive deep into something surprisingly powerful, and it's been around for ages, bibliotherapy.
Ah, yes.
Basically, think reading, but with a real focus on healing and boosting your mental well-being.
That's a great way to put it. And for this deep dive, which is really for you, our listener, we've looked at, well, quite a bit. Articles explaining the basics, studies on effectiveness, discussions about how it's used today.
Okay.
Our mission really is to unpack it all. What is bibliotherapy? Where did it come from? How does it actually work? What are the upsides? And, crucially, how can you maybe use it yourself?
All right, let's break down that word then. Bibliotherapy. Sounds a bit clinical, maybe.
It can sound that way.
But the core idea, it seems, is pretty straightforward. Our sources call it therapy through reading.
Using selected books, other written stuff to help with healing and, personal growth.
Right. So harnessing the power of the written word basically as a support tool.
Precisely. It's the strategic use of reading to help someone recover from emotional distress, mental illness, or even just work through personal problems.
And it can be guided, like with a therapist, or just you picking up a book on your own.
Exactly. It runs the gamut. And what's interesting is all the different names sometimes goes by. You hear book therapy, reading therapy, poetry therapy,
Poetry therapy. Interesting.
yeah, or therapeutic storytelling.
Yeah.
It just shows how many ways literature can, well, touch us and help us.
So not just one strict method then. It sounds like a whole spectrum.
It really is. And it pulls from different fields, too, which I find fascinating. Library science, psychology, obviously, but also creative arts therapies.
Huh. So it's quite interdisciplinary.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Shows how adaptable it is, really.
Now, you mentioned it's been around for ages. This isn't some new trend, is it?
Oh, not at all. If you go way back, like ancient Greece, ancient Egypt, they apparently saw libraries as healing places for the soul.
Wow. Healing places for the soul. That's
Yeah.
profound.
Oh.
Seeing books as nurturing our emotions, not just our intellect.
Isn't it? It shows this deep, long-standing human connection to stories and words. Then fast forward a bit to the 19th century in America.
Okay.
You had physicians like Benjamin Rush actually recommending literature in hospitals. For amusement, sure, but also for instruction.
And wasn't there someone else, Galt, John Minson Galt II, exploring it in mental institutions?
That's right. Really early formal recognition of its potential for mental health.
And then during the World Wars, too, helping soldiers?
Yes, particularly WWI and WWII. Reading was used to help returning soldiers cope with, well, significant trauma. But the real turning point for the term itself
Oh, yeah.
came in 1916. Samuel Crothers, a Unitarian minister, actually coined bibliotherapy in an article for the Atlantic Monthly.
1916. So that's when it got its official name, more or less.
Pretty much. That's when it started getting recognized formally as, a thing, a therapeutic approach.
Quite a journey from healing places for the soul to a term in the Atlantic Monthly. Okay, so you mentioned different approaches earlier. It's not one size fits all.
Definitely not. Different types cater to different needs and settings. You've got, for instance, developmental bibliotherapy.
Developmental.
Yeah, often used in schools or community settings. Especially helpful for kids and teens navigating, normal life stuff. Bullying, puberty, fitting in.
Ah, using stories to help them process growing up. Makes sense.
Exactly. Parents and teachers often find it really useful. Then there's clinical or therapeutic bibliotherapy. This is probably closer to what people imagine.
Right, in a therapy setting.
Precisely. Used by mental health pros alongside other therapies to tackle diagnosed conditions, anxiety, depression, trauma, addiction, things like that.
Okay.
Then there's creative bibliotherapy. This one uses imaginative literature, novels, stories, poems, often in groups.
Oh, interesting. How does that work?
The idea is to explore emotions and gain insights through the story itself, through metaphor and narrative. Less direct, maybe more exploratory.
I can see how that might appeal to some people. And what about prescriptive bibliotherapy? Sounds very specific.
It is. That's basically recommending specific self-help books or workbooks for particular problems. You might use it on your own, or a therapist might suggest it.
Like homework, but hopefully a helpful homework.
Sort of. And there are even more variations: interactive, symbolic bibliopoetry, which is just using poems, Even digital bibliotherapy now, it's really flexible.
So lots of ways to use it. But what's actually happening when we read that makes it therapeutic? What's the mechanism?
Right, the how. Our sources point to a few key things. First, there's identification.
Hmm.
You read about a character and you connect. You see their struggles, maybe their hopes, and you think, yeah, I get that. Or, that sounds like me.
That feeling of being understood, even by someone fictional.
Exactly. It's incredibly validating. In psychology, there's this concept, theory of mind.
Right, understanding others'
Yeah.
perspectives.
And reading fiction seems to actually strengthen that muscle.
Yeah.
You get better at understanding yourself and others by stepping into character shoes.
I can definitely relate to feeling that connection with a character.
And that connection can lead to the second mechanism, catharsis.
The emotional release.
Mm-hmm. You empathize with the character's journey, feel their emotions, sadness, anger, joy, but from a safe distance. It can be a huge relief, sometimes even bring hope.
Like having a good cry during a movie, but maybe more focused.
Kind of, yeah. Then comes insight. As you follow the story, maybe see how characters handle things or how situations unfold, you start seeing parallels to your own life.
So it's like holding up a mirror almost, seeing your own situation reflected differently.
Exactly. You gain new understanding, new perspectives on your own challenges.
Okay, identification, catharsis, insight. What's the last one?
Universalization. It's
Yeah.
just huge. It's that realization, I'm not alone in this.
Ah.
Seeing characters, real or fictional, grappling with similar issues makes your own struggles feel less isolating, more part of the, human condition.
That's powerful, reducing that feeling of being the only one.
Mm. So those 4 stages, identification, catharsis, insight, universalization, they work together to help process emotions, reframe thoughts, and ultimately understand yourself better.
It sounds like a really gentle, yet potentially profound process. So with all that going on, what are the actual benefits people might see, either on their own or with a therapist?
Well, the list is pretty long.
Oh,
Reading can seriously boost empathy, like we touched on, stepping into others' shoes.
right.
It definitely fosters personal insight and self-awareness. You reflect more. We talked about emotional release and catharsis. Big one. It offers normalization and validation that you're not alone feeling.
Mm,
It can instill hope for change, seeing characters overcome things,
yeah.
and improve coping skills by showing you how they cope.
It's like learning vicariously.
Yeah, seeing possibilities.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It might even improve communication and interpersonal skills by giving you insights into relationships and motivations. Definitely helps reduce feelings of isolation and loneliness.
Okay.
And as you understand yourself better, it can boost self-esteem and self-efficacy, that feeling that you can handle things.
Confidence. Yeah.
And there are even cognitive benefits. Better focus, maybe memory. Plus, it's often just plain relaxing, helping with stress and anxiety reduction.
That makes sense. A good escape.
Totally. There's also evidence that can help decrease depression symptoms, navigate grief and loss, support with relationship issues, even things like eating disorders or substance use.
Wow.
It can touch on existential concerns, big life questions, and support people through major life transitions.
That's incredibly wide-ranging. It almost sounds too good to be true. Are there, downsides or times when it's not the right fit?
Yeah, it's crucial to be realistic. It
Yeah.
definitely has limitations. For one, its effectiveness depends on finding the right materials for you. That's not always easy. And your own readiness and willingness to actually engage with the book are key. You can't just passively read.
Right, you have to lean in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this is really important. And it is not a replacement for professional therapy, especially for serious mental health conditions.
Okay, very important distinction.
Absolutely. There's also a risk, without guidance, of maybe misinterpreting things or incorrect self-diagnosis. And sometimes, honestly, if a book just doesn't land right or you don't finish it, it can be discouraging.
Yeah, I can see that. Feeling like you failed at the therapy book.
Right. Some careful selection is vital to avoid harm or bad info. And look, it's not for everyone. Maybe someone experiences psychosis, has cognitive limits, or just plain doesn't like reading.
Fair enough.
Research-wise, the strongest support seems to be for mild to moderate depression and anxiety, especially when using books based on things like cognitive behavioral therapy or CBT.
The practical skills-based stuff.
Often, yes. And the quality of the book matters, of course. Plus, it takes time and effort. So, great tool, but not a magic bullet.
That's a really helpful, balanced perspective.
Yeah.
Okay, so for people listening who are thinking, this sounds interesting, maybe I'll try it, where do they start? Do we have some specific book ideas for common challenges?
We do. Giving concrete examples can really help. Let's take grief, for instance. Such a tough one.
Mm-hmm.
Memoirs can be incredibly powerful. Think Joan Didion's The Year of Magical Thinking or Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie's Notes on Grief,
Mm-hmm.
Michelle Zoner's Crying in H Mart 2, very personal accounts.
Right, hearing someone else's raw experience.
Exactly. Fiction-wise, Max Porter's Grief is the Thing with Feathers is amazing, and C.S. Lewis's A Grief Observed. For more direct guidance, self-help like The Grief Recovery Handbook or It's Okay That You're Not Okay.
Great suggestions. What about for anxiety? So common.
For anxiety, workbooks can be really practical. Things like the Anxiety and Phobia Workbook or Cognitive Behavioral Therapy, made simple. They offer actual techniques.
Tools you can use.
Yeah. In fiction, maybe The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath or John Green's Turtles, all the way down, they offer relatable perspectives.
Yeah.
And for mindfulness or stress, The Happiness Trap. Even something like Getting Things Done, the productivity book, can surprisingly help manage overwhelm.
Interesting mix. Fiction for connection, nonfiction for tools. Okay, one more common area. Relationship issues.
Sure. For understanding connection, books on attachment like Hold Me Tight by Sue Johnson or Attached by Levine and Heller are great.
Understanding patterns.
Exactly. For couples wanting practical advice, Gottman's The 7 Principles for Making Marriage Work or Harville Hendricks's Getting the Love You Want. And for boundaries crucial in relationships, Codependent No More or Set Boundaries, Find Peace.
Fantastic examples. Really shows the range. So, someone's identified their issue, they have some ideas. How do they actually choose the right book?
Good question.
Yeah.
It starts with really thinking about that specific challenge. What is it you're grappling with most right now? Get
Yeah.
clear on that first. Then consider your reading preferences. Are you a fiction person? Nonfiction? Specific genres you like? That matters.
Yeah, you have to actually want to read it.
Exactly. Don't be afraid to seek recommendations. Therapists, librarians, people who specialize in this, they can have great ideas. Read reviews and summaries online. Get a feel for the book.
Do your homework a bit.
Especially for self-help, maybe check the author's credentials. Do they know their stuff? And remember, this is key. It is totally okay to stop reading if a book isn't working for you.
Don't force it. Good reminder.
Absolutely. Don't feel guilty. Just move on.
Okay, so they found a promising book. How do they read it? Well, therapeutically, how do they really engage?
It's about being active, not passive. Read with intention. Look for connections to your own life, your feelings, your experiences.
Pay attention.
Yes. Maybe highlight or underline bits that really jump out at you or spark an idea. Keeping a reading journal is huge.
Journaling. Tell me more about that.
It's just a space to jot down thoughts, feelings, connections as you read. How does this character's choice relate to something I did? What emotion did that passage bring up?
Processing it actively.
Exactly. Ask yourself questions about the text and take time to reflect afterwards. Don't just close the book and move on. Let it sit with you.
So journaling really deepens that reflection process.
It absolutely does. You can track your responses, notice patterns, explore how themes relate to your life, note down new ideas for coping that maybe the book sparked.
And discussing it helps too, right? Like you mentioned with groups or therapists.
Oh, definitely. Talking about it with a therapist or in a bibliotherapy group adds whole other layers. You get different perspectives, deepen your own understanding.
It sounds like a really rich way to engage with both the book and yourself. Amazing that a simple book can do all that.
It really is. And, authors and therapists really see this power. Maya Angelou famously said, reading is a form of therapy.
Simple, but powerful.
And Neil Gaiman spoke about how fiction gives us empathy, puts us inside others' minds. Literature acts like a mirror, reflecting ourselves, our potential.
Those are beautiful ways to put it.
Therapists who use it agree. They talk about how it builds empathy, insight, sparks conversation, supports growth. Dr. Liz Brewster mentioned how seeing your own thoughts in a book makes you feel less alone.
That universalization again.
And it can really boost engagement in therapy. It all comes back to those 4 stages we talked about. Identification, catharsis, insight, universalization. That's the engine driving the therapeutic effect.
Connection, release, understanding, and realizing you're not alone.
Got it. So, final practical point. For someone inspired to read more intentionally like this, how do they build that habit? Life gets busy.
It does. Start small. Set realistic daily goals, maybe 15 minutes or 10 pages, whatever feels doable.
Don't aim too high initially.
Exactly. Find a comfy, quiet spot. Minimize distractions. Carry a book with you. Use those little pockets of time, waiting in line, whatever.
Read what you actually find interesting. This shouldn't feel like a chore. Experiment with formats. Physical books, ebooks, audiobooks. See what works for your life.
Audiobooks count too.
Absolutely.
Right.
Maybe track your reading, can be motivating. Consider a book club for accountability and discussion. Making it part of a bedtime routine is a classic for a reason.
Winding down with a book.
Yeah. And just be patient. Habits take time. Give a book a chance to hook you. Maybe don't judge it by the first chapter alone.
All really great, actionable advice. Makes it feel possible.
So, wrapping up our deep dive here, we've really covered what bibliotherapy is. Therapy through reading, traced its long history, looked at the different ways it's used.
Developmental, clinical, creative.
Right. And how it works through identification, catharsis, insight, universalization. We've seen the huge range of potential benefits for mental well-being, but also, importantly, acknowledged the limitations.
The need for balance and professional help sometimes.
Exactly. It's an accessible, versatile tool, but not a cure-all.
It's been so enlightening seeing how books, something so familiar, hold this incredible potential for healing and self-discovery.
We really hope you, the listener, take maybe the book ideas or the habit-building tips as a starting point. Maybe think about one challenge you're facing right now. Just pause and consider. What kind of story, what kind of information might offer a new perspective? Or just a sense of connection?
A final thought to leave us with, there might just be a book out there waiting to meet you where you are.